bread that's baked by a guy, or anything cooked by a guy, or milk that's produced by a guy, and actually all these din are applied to a Challah Shabbos. Challah Shabbos is the same din as a guy in all respects. The Gemara says that the Chachamim Asad, they forbade eating bread that's baked by a guy. Baked by a guy means a private person, private housekeeper, housewife, or man who bakes himself in his own home. That bread is treif automatically. You can have the most kosher ingredients, it can be baked in the middle of the week. As long as a guy baked it, it's treif. Reasons, of course, are to avoid any proximity, any association with goyim. Eat bread with a goyim, break bread with him, and you get closer to him, and Chas Hashem leads to worse. Worst thing, of course, is assimilation. Intermarriage, Chas Hashem, so all these gazetas are made to avoid any socializing with goyim. Now, if it's the bread that's baked by a baker, a Goyish baker, there's no question of association. You buy bread that's stored, baked by a Goyish baker, then it is permissible. There are some people, of course, who would rather not eat that either, but all people did it is definitely permissible. This is the bread we speak about on the Sense of Teshuva. We say a person should be stricter than usual, and even though he eats bread of a baker, a Goyish baker all year round, Sense of Teshuva should be stricter not to eat that either. Cake that's baked by a guy, too, Goyish baker too has the same problem, except that there you have much more reason to respect treifa ingredients. That's why you have to be very careful to see to it that it has hashgacha. Also, the fact that there are eggs in cake make it worse, because the eggs in cake mean that it is also cooked. Besides being baked, it's cooked. So you have the baking of the egg is treif, the cooking of the egg additionally is treif. So, plus of course the other ingredients might be treif. So you have to have this kosher. How do you kosher cooking of a guy? If there is a Jew who assists in any manner, he lights the oven, and he turns the gas up a little bit, turns the fire up a slight drop, he adds a little fire to it, then it is kosher. He once mentioned that one of the great tzaddikim in the past, Arizal, one of them used to go around, Tesis brings also, one of them used to go around to different bakeries or different stores, and when they baked this crazy cake, and he would throw a match, or he would light a cigarette, he would throw a match inside, he would add a drop of heat to the place for the sake of assisting in the cooking of the bishul, the baking and the cooking of the guy, which made it kosher. The Jew assists, but it becomes kosher. So again, note that this would help only the case of the guy. You have an OU, for example, showing that the Goyish cake has supervision. It means there's a Jew or a shkiach who watches over it. There's nothing treif, no treif ingredient, plus the fact that it means also the shkiach assists in the baking, turns the oven on, and it's alright. But in the case of a Challah Shabbos, this does not help. And this will explain why caterers that a Challah Shabbos will have the best mashkiach possible. The shkiach can turn on a gas for a goy, not for a Jew. The shkiach can watch over a goy, but not for a Jew. The goy has a different din entirely. The goy has a din of misas. He's afraid, he's careful, he knows that he's suspect. The Jew in the Challah Shabbos, who is called a choshed, a suspect, does not have any of these items, this type of activity. He is not to be trusted at all, even with hashgacha, because you cannot keep your eye on him 100% of the time. So that's why there's no actual heter for a person to eat. The caterer, who is a Mechal Shabbos, no matter who the mashkiach may be, no matter how constantly hashgacha, how secure it is, how well it's locked up, there's no actual heter for it. But it's very sad that there are so few who are aware of this. Not that they'll pay it, but they're not aware of this fact, and it would be nice if they could be taught it. A lot of things that should be taught. Well, the cooking of a goy becomes usher only if it's something of value, only if it's something that is an important food item, plus a food item that cannot be eaten raw. Let's say apples. An apple can be eaten raw. A cooked apple is not considered bishul akum. Cooked apple is not something that will go on the table of a king, a royal feast. It's going to be something very valuable. Plus, it should be something which changes, which is altered in the process of cooking. A cooked apple would be permissible to eat even though a guy had cooked it, if all the other considerations are taken care of. In other words, there's no trace of fats or anything, nothing, no ingredient was added to it, and so on. Just the item alone of cooking would not spoil this apple. So the egg, which is not valuable, but it could be eaten raw, but it is not, usually. Very few people eat eggs raw. You go to Russia sometimes, you have no choice, you eat a raw egg. Otherwise, when you're a chazan who has to watch his voice, they eat raw eggs. Great cantor, internationally known cantors who have to have it. We have here a few of them, many raw eggs, but the usual case is that raw eggs are not eaten, and therefore it is something which changes. And so even though an egg is not that valuable, but since it is changed from raw to cooked, it cannot be eaten if it's cooked by a guy. Tea, coffee, and things like that are a shayla, depending upon the situation in the city, how valuable it's considered, or how raw it can be eaten. Itself, it's a shayla generally, because the water is not changed when the water is cooked. The tea itself could be already cooked. It is a shayla. The dechek, which has a tag, a person who is away from home could drink tea or coffee if it's necessary. He has nothing else. Made in a goyish place, if he's careful that the rest of the place is kosher. The place that sells him, for instance, the dishes full of that stuff, they're washed together, so any water that's cooked there certainly is, by layer, absorbs the taste of that tray for food. That, of course, has to be avoided naturally. A maid that works in a home, a Jewish home, which has a goyish maid, who does the cooking, and then we say generally that the Jew in the house certainly does help in the cooking. He does something about adding a fire to it, so there'd be no problem in general. But if she cooks for herself, this maid, and the Jew does not help her cook for herself, then surely that food is treif for the Jew. Not only the food is treif, but the pot is treif. This is something too which is very sad, because in many homes, and we don't find among ours, but in many of the richer homes, they have maids, and they sometimes cook for themselves something without having separate dishes, separate utensils, and that's why it's very difficult to eat in those homes. There's a lot of shaylas come through those maids, especially the Yagish maid. There is a case where a guy is allowed to cook for a Jew, a chatchila, on Shabbos. The Jew is sick, permissible for a guy to cook for him. But that's familiar, of course. He had that Imam Chulun. Remember the Imam Chulun? You want to find it? Yeah, I learned it together, where it says that a guy could cook for a Jew on Shabbos. In fact, the Jew also could even cook for a sick person, and the food is kosher. If you recall, we had a machlokes between Ameir and Yehuda and Hasan, what happens to the food after Shabbos is over? Is that food permissible after Shabbos? The din is, so we now come to the chavruta. The din is that the food is osir mitzvah Shabbos, even for the sick person, because then you can have the Jew cook for him kosher. Why bishul akum treif for food? They can have kosher food afterwards. So the food that was cooked on Shabbos remains treif after Shabbos is over, except during Shabbos for the sake of the sick person. The kelim that was cooked in, it's a very big shayla with those kelim, and according to the Rashba, R Avraham, the kelim are treif. The pot which you cooked in is treif. However, there are some days which maintain that the Chassidut that if it's not a Yidden, it becomes kosher. Leave it stay for 24 hours, the kelim become kosher. It's the heter which is used. It's not a common case, but it's important to note though. Chala Shabbos Semena is which you're allowed to have one. Shabbos. During the week. Yeah, same thing. Same thing as you have to watch the kiruv.
No, she doesn't make that sense. She's making for you.
Well, she has to have a person to touch properly. It's a rough taste. Now, one more thing. Hold on. Take this next time, because I don't want to go too fast over this. Right, the ikad is that the purpose of all these halachas are for a person to estrange himself, to stay as far away from goyim, not to associate with them, because the Am Yisrael is Kodesh, the Zeri Kodesh is Kodesh, which becomes Kodesh. Kodesh is higher than Kodesh. 3 times Kodesh becomes Kodesh. Kodesh Yisrael Hashem. It's higher than the Kedusha, which is ever to be the Emes. Kedoshim Hashem, Edi Hashem, the Emes, Mitachira, the Ahava, the Emes. And that's supposed to be Emunah Hashem, that's Nikon Ritin. The sea, the Eleno, the Shiach, yes, we can. It's straight on there. Today, in honor of the event, we'll deviate from our regular shiur and take up the halachas of chas and kala on the day of the chipah. This should whet the appetite of those who would like to be in the place of a worthy chassan who has saved us from saying tachlin today, and who perhaps is magnanimous kindness will save us tomorrow again. Tuesday, Wednesday, and it's Chodesh, so we wouldn't be saying as much. But naturally, we first want to wish the chassan without the presence of the kala. We gave the kala brachas yesterday. We now extend them to the chassan in the name of everyone present, that they should be zeichet to build a home, should be truly based, truly the site of the Torah Gdesha, mitzvahs of the Torah, not only the Sida, the base scale, the path that is a true path of all tzadik and ritim, and we truly blessed pleasantly from heaven with the Shechina over and in the home at all times to bring Shefa, Bracha, Hatzlacha, Ruchnis and Yashmus to this couple. The thing says that the chassan and kala customarily is a minig that they fast on the day of the chipah. They must fast on that day, which means they fast the entire day. The reason is that on that day there is what we call a wedding. It is a custom to give wedding gifts. Every person, every friend, Shashvina, give gifts to the chassan and kala. There is one gift that is most precious, and that is given from heaven, the most important gift of all, and that is the chila, kapara, forgiveness for the sins, especially for the avodos. Avodos means sins that are done amazing. Sins that are done amazing, those sins are forgiven by Hashem to the chassan and kala, which means that this is equivalent to many Yom Kippurs combined. You have one Yom Kippur which forgives for the sins of that year. Here the sins of all the years, which sins that may have remained because the Yom Kippurs did not do the job. It happens sometimes the Kippur doesn't do the job entirely because a person doesn't really do tshuva that day, a person doesn't have a munah that day, he's forgiven. There are many reasons why Yom Kippur could be held back. Or sins Yom Kippur is not enough to forgive. Here you have a very solid mechila for the chatas le'ulim, sins that are done in a person's in his youth. The blood is much warmer, hotter. This Rabbi's day is so vital. That day Hashem gives this great gift to the chassan and kala, mechila for the avodos. And therefore, in Tfilas Mincha, they say, just like in a regular fast day, some say Aneinu, others leave it out. But it is a custom that they do say Al Chait. Well, that's when the wedding is at night. They say Al Chait for Mincha, the same as you say for Mincha Aved Yom Kippur. The wedding is in the afternoon, of course, the only thing you can say that is Shachris, should be said in the morning. But the custom is, though, that instead of being like in Kippur where you fast all day until the end of the day, the minig is to fast only until the end of the chuppah. As soon as the chuppah is over, the chassan and kala leave to go to the yichud room, then they break the tainus there. Then that is sufficient. Now, there is another reason for this tightness. According to this reason, if it comes out on a Shchedesh or on certain days of the year when you do not fast, then the Chassidut are excused from fasting. Some people fast the day before to show that they don't want to lose out on this mitzvah. But they're excused from fasting that day. There is another point, though, involved, another reason involved. One reason why they fast is because they should be forgiven. That's the day of Kippur. So the other reason is that they both have to go to a chuppah in clear, lucid, sane mind, state of mind. But there should be no question there to say that they didn't have all the faculties at the time, and therefore they mean to. This is the one I married. I wasn't sane at the moment. I wasn't all there. Or, of course, to claim insanity. It's something interesting. It's a universal ailment. Feinstein says that if you want to tell the truth, you should build a fence around this whole world, put a big sign outside of the fence, insane asylum, then you'd have the world described properly. However, since their excuse is invalid, other people could say, I was drunk at the time. Drunk, you know how an excuse that is. So therefore, the din says that on the day of chuppah, it is forbidden for a chassan to drink. They're forbidden to drink, so that even when there is no fast day, because it's the Shchedesh, for example, they still have to be careful to avoid any kind of intoxicating beverage, no matter how little. There are some people who have such tiny brains that an ounce of wine even could confuse these mice, these mini brains. So the tiniest bit of whiskey or wine or anything intoxicating should be avoided by the chassan kal. Especially then that day, they should avoid any kind of distractions. Keep their minds clear on the kedusha of the day. Clear meaning they should go to that day with true tshuva. It's not just fasting alone, they have to do real tshuva. And the real tshuva means that they should honestly sit down, meditate, think, recall. Recall means to bring back, as much as you can, bring back the memory of things you've done throughout your life. And you are very fortunate, you have a chance that all these things will be forgiven. So bring them back in your mind. I recall that when I was 6 years old, I did this, 8 years old, this. It even says that a person who recalls that when he was 3 years old, struck his father or his mother. A child sometimes slaps. And of course it's not meant at the time, it's not intended as such. But it is done, it's an act that's done, and striking a parent could be a very serious crime. So even a thing like that, a person can recall that, should say vidui at the time for that, and to ask Mechila, Slicha Kapara from Hashem, and should resolve then that these sins that were done, childhood sins, sins that pertain to tivus, evil tivus, you should show true remorse, true regret, and a solid resolve from now on to be emes, serve Hashem, the emes with sincerity, to be pure and holy. And then to go to the chuppah, and under the chuppah, mispal to Hashem that the Shekhinah should rest with him, as the Gemara says, when you have ish v'isha, the kedusha, the Shekhinah is with them. And that is why the chuppah is called kedushin too. Kedusha means kedusha, kind of real kedusha, where they enter into a new life that is sacred, it is kodesh Hashem. Let's hope that we should all be zecher to the emes, to tshuva for all our past. Be zecher to a slichim chinei kapara. Hashem should erase our sins. Be zecher such a tshuva me'ava that all our sins should be converted into mitzvahs. There should be no trace whatsoever of any tumah in them. We should serve Hashem emes and know every Hashem be emes. The derech hakodesh Rabbeinu Zohar nachal levein and kachachol be'elach v'peichu v'yisrael. We continue the halachas of food that is produced by a goy. So we come to a very delicate topic. Delicate because it's a very controversial item. But of course, a person would feel justifiably bitter about something which he has had a lot of battles over. I'm sure that people who live in homes where they are opposed to religion, they go through battles. There's a lot of bitterness that remains inside against the opposition. And this did have milk of a goy called chalav akum, non-Jewish milk that was not produced by a Jewish farmer or by mashkiach. We watch the way the milking is done. It's called chalav akum, and this is asur. It is asur to drink. There's no question about this din. It's a din of Shulchan Aruch, din of the Gemara, the Chachamim, the Chazal, asur this, and period. The question is only about butter, or milk products, or milk mixtures. There is a slight question. Some say butter is okay, and it is eaten, butter which has chalav akum, and so on. What makes this a very delicate topic is the fact that, admittedly, until, say, past World War II, when the influx of a tremendous number of Hasidic Jews came from Europe, until that time, it was practically unheard of. There was no way that the Jews here could, there was no way, there just wasn't any chalav Yisrael. So the average person, the vast majority, drank milk. They had, at that time it was Sheffield, so forth, milk. And it is true, admittedly, that the Jews in America, New York, tzadikim, Chassidim, Tehidim, Kedeshim, I testify to the fact that when I was young, I remember the purity, the tzvimus, the kedusha. Jews then were Avavari could be zecher to the tzvimus at least. And there was not a product known as chalav Yisrael then, until it began to, it was produced by a certain sects that came in. And so, of course, once it came out, everyone actually accepted, meaning the Jews accepted the Isser of chalav akum. It was not that easy at first. There were only in certain neighborhoods. Today, everywhere as you go, you'll find chalav Yisrael. Today there would be no excuse for a person to drink chalav akum anymore. But you cannot accuse those in the past who at one time did drink chalav akum, though there were a very, very rare few. You'd say maybe the whole city there might have been over 1 million Jews, there might have been 5 or 6 people who refused to drink milk. Got along the whole lifetime without. Nobody else that wasn't called this stuff. Asher lahem. But you cannot condemn a populace of Jews when there was no chalav Yisrael, and so it was felt that it was an emergency. Milk was needed, and it was eaten, it was drunk. That is, it was consumed with regrets, but it was used then. And of course, we say Hashem Yechapet, Hashem Kipet. Hashem surely forgave for it. And no person today, no matter who he is or what he is, has a right to accuse those in the past, because no person is in a position where he can judge. Now, the question is today. Nowadays, when there is no excuse for drinking chalav akum, then certainly the least religious person is bound, definitely bound by a halacha that is very clear, very, very clear in Shulchan Aruch. There's no way out of this. You are not allowed to drink chalav akum. You must drink only chalav Yisrael. Today you have a number of companies that produces chalav Yisrael. As far as butter, there are days that you're allowed to eat butter that has a mixture of chalav akum in it. And then we come to the more controversial item, as far as an item which has milk mixed into it. For example, you take kosher ice cream, which has a mixture of chalav akum. Mixture, these is not openly chalav akum, but it has a mixture. Now, there are many who are very fiery about this. They will not touch anything which has trace of chalav akum in it. Therefore, they declare this to be treif ice cream. It's not real ice cream. Only real ice cream they say is kosher. There's a product called real ice cream, which has chalav Yisrael in it. But it has no ice cream in it. So this is what they produce. It's an Arizal, synthetic ice cream. Now, there's 2 points about that. Nobody could say, actually could not say that go eat ice cream which has non-chalav Yisrael. I do say that we come across many bitter battles in this case. People who say you drink chalav Yisrael, you should not eat ice cream which has chalav akum. And therefore, it's hypocritical. So they say, since you don't eat ice cream, therefore, so they might as well drink chalav akum too. You don't eat this, go all out. And that is the battle, controversy which rages And the answer to this is, Chas v'sholom, that's the most false, erroneous attitude to take. Arizal said that one of the worst vicious attacks against the Jew is when they say the Jew is eating something which is treif. He goes to the treif restaurant, Chas v'sholom, how does he dare to wear tzitzis? Go to the treif restaurant, why do you wear tzitzis? You're a hypocrite. The answer is that the person attacking is an anti-Semite. Of course, an hypocrite. Yes, and the Jew could do a mitzvah that is tyrant, directs him to do an aveda. It doesn't mean you should drop all mitzvahs, Chas v'sholom. You have a mitzvah to your credit, hold on to that tightly. If at this time you have a yerida, Chas v'sholom, you're falling, you cannot control the Yetzer Hara, Chas v'sholom, you're falling, you're doing it very serious, and how serious, don't drop the mitzvahs which you are doing. Hold on to them as treasures. Those people who say you're a hypocrite, you do this, or take off your tzitzis, take off your tefillin, Chas v'sholom, Rosenfeld said this is poison. Absolutely poison. Because very famous word of Arizal, who said, Abyssal is rechkit. A little bit is also good. I remember that my father told me that when he used to go to Uman, Rosh Hashanah. And it was amazing Rosh Hashanah. And he used to travel from his home to Rosh Hashanah with Mesilas Nefesh. Mesilas Nefesh, really genuine. It was a question of life and death. He went every year for Rosh Hashanah, left his home, together with hundreds, thousands of others. And when he came to Uman, he was very closely between with Arizal, and he sort of bemoaned the fact that what a shame, what a pity that this wonderful Gan Eden we have on earth, this place of Menachem Shul, Menachem Sin, to have this get together only, I feel so badly. The Shul is 2 days, and then immediately we leave, go back. Arizal answered that Menachem said, Abyssal is rechkit. A little bit is also good. It's some little bit. We'd like to have some of that little bit. But to know that this does not mean a person can't have all of it, so you shouldn't have any Chas v'sholom. You have limits to hold on to whatever you have very tightly, very preciously. It becomes all the more precious because of that. Other words that illustrate this. This is not the topic now. But again, those who claim, who disclaim mitzvah because you eat ice cream or mixture called akum, that is very erroneous. We say in this case if a person does eat ice cream for various reasons, because there's a shayla, not a shayla, but there are certain opinions possibly that a mixture is not considered a real chalav akum. In any event, if a person does that, he should not be condemned as saying he drinks chalav akum. That definitely not. A person is not supposed to drink chalav akum. If he doesn't eat anything which has chalav akum in it, very good. All the more credit to him. But if he does, then he still is one who observes the mitzvah of chalav Yisrael, and he should stick to it very strongly. I think it is that a person should be willing to battle through, to hold out for all the details of mitzvahs against all opposition, and to do it with strength. Because when the Mishnah says, serve Hashem like a lion, Divrei Ka'ari, he's powerful like a lion and serving Hashem. And as Kanoneh, strong like a leopard, solid. Like a leopard means fight like a leopard. A leopard is wilder than a lion. Fight like a leopard, strength against anybody who tries to stop you. Do not let yourself be dragged down, Chas v'sholom, by those who try to stop you, by those who mock religion, especially those who mock the kedusha and taram and tzadik. Stand up and battle. I know that you're battling on the right side. As the Arizal said, the time will come very shortly now when the real beauty, the tiferes, beauty of the tzadik, beauty of Breslov will come out and shine forth. I say to those who will be on the side of this beauty at that time, we should be zecher to hold on to this tiferes, this emunah, the Arizal, and shine forth when Mashiach comes now. We should see that coming in Mashiach. start today a new set of dinim that pertain to the dinim of brachas. Brachas that are said over food, before eating, during a meal, after a meal. Different types of brachas which originate in the Gemara called brachas, the first Gemara. It is known that the first Gemara brachas is a Gemara that is simple compared to other Gemaras. It's like Agadah. It's the easiest Gemara out. This Gemara is made for children and for women. And yet the Vilna Gaon Zal once said that of all the halachas that exist, as far as he was concerned, he was one of the greatest geniuses that lived. The most difficult Gemara existing for him was Masechta Brachas, the most complex set of dinim. There is no set of laws that are so complicated and that have so many cases where the din is not clear at the end, where we remain in Shulchan Aruch with a suffix, with a doubt. Usually Shulchan Aruch is made as the final law. In Brachas we have many laws that remain as doubts, and therefore it's one of the most complicated sets, and we have to learn them very carefully. First din of brachas is, we know that if a person washes some bread, makes some leitzi, and that bracha covers all the food he will eat during the meal. If you have different articles of food without bread, without a suda, you have to make different brachas on each item. For example, if you have 4 items, you have a piece of cake, and you have a fruit, let's say an apple, and you have a cantaloupe, and you have a glass of juice, then you have 4 brachas. The proper order is the special bracha, the most important bracha is B'nei Mezainis, on cake first, and then comes the bracha prati, the individual bracha B'nei Pri Ha'etz, and then one which is slightly more generalized, B'nei Pri Ha'dama on the cantaloupe, and then on the juice, Shakel and Dvarim. That's the order of the brachas. But if a person has a meal, he eats bread, and then he has potatoes, vegetables, meat, fish, a whole long meal, the one bracha he covers the entire meal except one item which we'll soon see. Now, it then tells us that what happens if a person wants to go eat. He's going to wash. But just before washing his hands, he wants to eat a bit of food. Let's say that they're about to wash, they're about to go eat, and his wife is a little bit slow in setting the table. And he's hungry. He wants to take a fruit, an apple, for example. Now, immediately afterwards, he's going to wash and eat a meal. So the question is, at the meal, he's going to say Bekas Hamazon, benching after the meal. Will that Bekas Hamazon cover the apple he eats just before the meal? And the answer is, it depends upon the item. In this case, an apple is a special kind of an item where it is the one item where the mitzi does not cover it. For example, if a person makes a mitzi, he wants to eat cake afterwards, there's no bracha on the cake during the meal. He wants to eat vegetables, there's no bracha. He wants to eat meat, there's no bracha. But he wants to eat a fruit, and then there is a bracha even in the meal itself. Now, since there is a bracha in the meal itself, then the Bekas Hamazon is not going to cover the fruit that he eats before the meal. Which means that he's now in a quandary. He cannot, how is he going to say the bracha after the apple if he already washed, made a mitzi, did not say a better nefashis for the apple, and the Bekas Hamazon will not cover it. How can it ever be covered? So this puts him into a very difficult situation. One way to do it is that after benching, he should again make a bracha on an apple, and then say better nefashis for the first fruit that he ate. That's the weak way out. And of course, presents a bigger problem. The only true way is, the true way for a person to avoid this, to be very careful. Avoiding this is never to eat anything just before you're going to wash. Because you're going to run into one of the most serious problems out. It's called a bracha levatola, a bracha in vain, or a bracha shenetzricha, a bracha which will have a suffix on it. In case you're ever in doubt about a bracha, you cannot say the bracha. So it is dangerous to eat anything just before you're going to wash for a meal. The only other way is that you could, for instance, eat the apple, and then say the bracha better nefashis on the apple, and then you go for a walk for a minute or two, Maybe so that it shows that you had no intention of washing for a meal immediately. Then, of course, the apple is a separate food item. But if you intend to wash for a meal immediately, you cannot pretend to say that you're eating the apple and it's a separate item of food from the meal. You cannot separate them. So one of the two things: either you eat the fruit, make a bread and a foshes, and make a hefsek between that and the meal. A hefsek not just by waiting 2 minutes, by taking a walk, going out of the room, showing that there's a new project coming up, or else best not to eat any apples or fruit or any food just before you're going to go to a meal. It's very dangerous. We'll see later on the other types of food that are involved too. And this is something where you find people do it, especially before you go to a wedding, you have a smorgasbord, and then you have fruit and so forth, and that is extremely dangerous, because then, if you're going to wash for the meal right away, then you have fallen into a safek bracha. So there, what you should do is eat the smorgasbord early enough so that you can make a bracha achrona on it, then go to the chuppah, take time out, so that you have a new meal coming up. But not to allow it to be too close to the regular meal, because then you run into the safek brachas. There's much more to say on this. We'll continue this tomorrow, Mitzvah. Meanwhile, let's hope that we are zecher. This important point, we are zecher, that through being particular and careful about the brachas that we say, we allow these brachas which are blessings to Hashem, brachas to shlachut to Hashem, the schus of our brachas, which is zecher Hashem, and in turn bless, bench us, give us the main bracha, which is zecher to see whether our eyes are coming of Mashiach. Amen. Of eating anything just before a suda. Before a meal, we said that you eat something, then you run into a safek whether the bekas hamazon will cover the food you eat before, or whether it will not. Also depends upon whether you eat that same food in the middle of the meal or not. So therefore the eitzah is definitely to avoid eating anything just before you go to wash for a meal. Not exactly anything, because Shiloh brought about drinking wine before. Then says you should not drink wine because we do not know whether the bracha bekas hamazon will cover it or not, and then you'd have to drink wine again after the meal to cover with another agafen. A very complicated, complex item, except that on Shabbos, and surely, positively, the wine before the meal, if drunk at the same table, the kiddush is covered by the bekas hamazon, whether you drink wine in the middle of the Suda or not. That's especially on Shabbos, the halacha of kiddush. There's one exception to this rule, and that is cake. This is something too which most people are in error about. If you eat cake before a meal, immediately before, for example, you have kiddush, and you drink the wine and eat cake, you do not have to make an ala michya for the cake if you're going to eat the meal immediately. Because in the case of cake, definitely, the bekas hamazon will cover the cake eaten before the meal. The reason is that in this case, cake is something where a person does not have to make a bracha for in the middle of a meal. The bread, the Menachem Mendel Schneerson, covers the eating of cake. These are the dinim for eating before the washing for bread. And now we'll swing right into the dinim of Netilas Yadayim L'Suga. Then that if you want to eat anything but bread, there's no washing hands for it. If you want to eat bread, then you have to wash your hands in a special manner before the meal, before the bread. The reason for this washing the hands is the Chachamim will gezer tumah on a person's hands. Because of Sarach Trumah, the Chachamim said that every person's hands is considered tamei when you are going to eat bread. Therefore, in order to purify, to be tired the hands, you must wash them twice before the meal. We're going to continue that tomorrow, Mitzvah. I want to get the din of tumah clear. The din of tumah itself, the Gemara says there are two kinds of tumah. There is a tumah in the food, the article of food. There is a tumah in the person himself who eats it. Now, as far as the article of food is concerned, the din of eichel, any article of food, there is a shear, a certain amount that becomes tamei if it's touched by something which is tamei, and less than that amount, it does not become tamei. That amount is the size of an egg, kibeya. Now therefore, for example, note this unusual case. If you have two people sitting side by side, both of them eating a meal, both of them eating an egg, both of them are smart because they do not believe the words of the doctors who claim there's cholesterol in eggs. The eggs are dangerous. The statement of doctors, when actually the Gemara says that the healthiest thing in the world, size for size, is an egg, chicken egg. So you have these two smart people eating eggs. Each one has an egg in front of him. One has a whole egg. The other slices his egg into two parts. But both are exactly the same size. Now, a davar tomei swings over and touches first the first man's egg, then it touches the second man's two parts, one after the other. So everything has been touched by this davar tomei. What becomes tomei? Only the one who has a whole egg. The two half eggs cannot become tamei. Your an article of food cannot become tamei unless it's the size of an egg. You have two articles, both less than the size of an egg, they both remain pure. The first one, who had this full-size egg, became tamei. Therefore, because of the din of tumah, the fact that tumah exists, the chum gezer, not this kind of tumah, a different type of tumah, the adayim, isha yabonon, say this acharon. Therefore, we have the mitzvah of washing hands 2 hours before a suda. The dinim of washing hands before a suda are different than washing hands in the morning. We'll discuss those dinim in detail, Mr. Shem, tomorrow. Let's hope that we'll be zeichet to purify ourselves, tie ourselves of all types of tumah, especially the tumah on the heart. That stops the person from pure emunah, which cannot be the true emunah, and that's, of course, the sea. We continue the din of the tilas yadayim, washing hands before bread, before a suda. The din is that you're supposed to wash your hands for bread only. We do not wash our hands for fruit. In the Gemara, there are some who are not to wash hands before fruit, but the Gemara says that is a sign of yuhara, of gaiva. So we don't use those finger bowls and so on. Washing hands only before bread. And stress, only before bread that is the size of an egg. Size of a beya. Beya is an egg, and you do not wash your hands for less than that size. Now, this would mean you see people who eat less than the size of a beya of bread and show, look, mine, no hands. I don't wash my hands before bread. That's a very poor thing to do because there are a lot of speakers in that too. So, the person who wants to be clean, should know that to be on the right side, he should never, this means his whole lifetime, go through life, it's not that difficult, go through life and never eat a piece of bread less than the size of an egg. But you know that you react with that. Now this is a double suffix. Let's say the person says, what do I lose if I wash my hands? You lose because there's suffix in the Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Eat less than the size of an egg. So suffix in the Birkas HaMazon. A lot of speakers use that whether you say bracha, whether you should bench afterwards. The thing is, the person should never eat bread less than the size of an egg. He knows that whatever bread he eats, he always has to wash for it, he has to bench for it. Now the tilas yadayim itself, washing hands itself, requires a special type of washing. It must be with a keli. It must be a vessel, a glass, a cup, and the glass or cup must be whole. It should not be broken or chipped. And therefore you'll see the minhag kadmonim, regular, this is a good, simple religious Jew, whenever he goes to wash, there's a reflex action. It comes automatically, without even thinking. He picks up the cup and then he slides his finger over the top, around the top of the rib. He finds, like being bedik a chalaf, he tests this, a sakin, a shchita, you test it for a pegima, so too you test the pegima in the cup. The pegima that passes a chalaf could pass a cup too. That's how tiny the pegima could make the cup puzzle. It must be perfectly smooth without a chip or a nick in the top. If it has ridges and humps like up and down, but smooth, it's kosher. It's not supposed to be chipped on top or nicked. This you're supposed to check all around the rim of the keli. The rim means the absolute top. You can have on the side of the rim chips, but they don't count. The reason for that is, I'll take it a little deeper, the halacha. The reason for it is that if you have, for example, a keli with a spout, you have a keli with a spout, and the spout ends, it's a point that comes up above the height of the rim, then you cannot pour from that spout, because the keli ends at the rim, the lowest part. It ends at the lowest part, that's the end of the keli. Now, if you have a keli with a nikin and a chip, that chip is lower than the rest of the rim. It means that that's the end of the keli. Whatever is above it is not part of the keli. So you have to pour all the water just through that chip alone to make it kosher, which of course cannot be done. So therefore, there is no way that a keli with a chip can be used, aside from the fact that you have to use a keli that has some hidur also, with respect to the mitzvah. And so, the first rule of the Tikuney Zohar, the keli is a showing, complete keli. Then the person knows that his washing is proper. One additional idea that the keli is supposed to be one that can stand by itself. You cannot take a keli that cannot stand. For example, a cup. They use these pointed cups. For ice cream in them? Cone shape. A cone-shaped cup. It comes to a point. You can't put that cup down. You can't stand it at a point. So if it was a cup like that, it would be possible to use for washing because it cannot rest. However, if the cup originally was made with that cone shape, then the cup could be used. It's kosher to be used because it's made originally for the sake of putting it into a container. But if the cup, let's say, was perfectly round, and then the bottom was bent somehow, bent so that it can't stand it, leans over, that cup becomes posek. If it was originally made to come to a point where it requires anything else, it's kosher. If it wasn't, and it became spoiled, then it's posek. Or if, let's say, it wasn't made to be used for the sake of a cup. For instance, you take a pot, regular pot, and on a pot you have a cover. The cover has a little notch on top, a wooden handle. You want to use that cover to wash hands with, put the cover down, it can't stand. It leans over to the side. That cover is possible because that cover was never made to be a container. Even though it was made originally with the condition of bleeding, it's not made a container, but it's possible. So very simply use a cup that is made for the sake of a cup that hadn't changed its appearance from its original, and a cup that is pure and showing. And if we see that our cup is pure and showing, that what's in our cup is pure too, then we'll be zecher to the end of Hashem B'Emes. You see, the Yisrael setting the head up. The Kiddush today, if you notice, was on the yard side. And I can only say that this the yard side today, that means the Neshama, mother of the today's Tefillah, whose Neshama today has an Aliyah, we could say Ashrei Lo, because she never dreamt that she would have this sechus, have a son who would come to daven the Yomid, the Menachem Mendel Schneerson. What the Amos says about the sechus of davening the Yomid, the Gemara says about the Kiva, about the sechus for the Neshama, the Prat, the daven for the Yomid, the Menachem Mendel. And what an aliyah, what a simcha it is now, Hilula in heaven, for this Neshama. We continue the din of the Netilas Yadayim. The amount of water that you have to wash with. This shear is a major item because the Gemara says that a person, the spilling of the water for washing hands is the key to parnasa. A person who skips on the amount of water he spills has less parnasa, less shefa. You want to say that Rav Chisda, who was wealthy, said, I pour a whole handful of water on each hand, cupful, therefore he said, I receive a cupful of shefa, a handful of shefa from heaven in return. So a person should be careful not to skimp with the amount of water he uses for washing hands. Especially, see that the water reaches every single iota of the hand, every bit of space, area in the hand. Therefore, he must keep the fingers separated and in an upward position so that the water will go down and cover every place in the hand up to the wrist. Must cover the top of the fingers until the wrist. This is the bit of wash of Tikuney Zohar. He has to wash his right hand first, and then the left hand. And the water must come at one time, one single pour, which means that the cup must be poured out at one time, the whole cup. So means if you have a bottle with a narrow opening, a soda bottle, that is not kosher for washing hands, because it will come at one time. The cup, when you turn it, must spill out completely. Now, the custom is to wash each hand twice. This is a major item. Because there's a lot of machlekes among the Rishonim, basis in the Nosh, about the Shadow, how many times you have to wash your hands. Of course, all agree that you have to wash your hands. Not all, but the Shakaloch agree that you have to wash your hand with succession on each hand. Once, twice, and then once, twice on the left hand. Not like you do in the morning, you wash it alternately. A number of times there's a machlekes. Whether you do it twice or three times, either once, twice, or three times. There are three opinions. Now, all agree, not all, but most agree that if you wash with it at least a 5-ounce glass, pour it out at one time, then your yaitza with just one single time. If your hands are clean, there's no dust on them. Pour your hand once, 5-ounce glass, entire one, 5 or more, on each hand is yaitza. However, the Naived holds that that even then you still must have at least twice. You still should have twice in the chacham. So I don't possibly that too. That even if you have an avius, no matter how much you have, still be sure to wash twice. Because there's the question of the first waters become tummy. The water touches your hand is tummy. So the waters on top will become tummy. Your hand is purified, the water becomes tummy. Now you still have to get that water purified. So you wash the second water on top of that purifies the first. There are some children, I recall, used to have, when you teach this to children, so you ask the children this question, pour the water on your hand. Your hand is tummy. The water comes on it, the water becomes tummy. So how is your hand pure? If the water is tummy, the water is the tummy of the hand after that, right? Right? Wrong. It's a child's question. The second water is going to purify the first, so what happens to the second one? The children's question. Anyhow, children? we learned in the Chulin the answer to this question. Different degrees, different levels of Talmud. You cannot go past a certain level. The point is that you have to wash. You shouldn't wash twice. Or some will wash 3 times. Our leading is that we wash twice each hand. That's it. Twice on the right, and then twice on the left. Be sure to see to it that the cup, if it's only a 5-ounce cup, that the cup is filled. Not wash with a cup that's partially full, or the cup that has less than 5 ounces. You can take a 5-ounce cup and pour it on the hand twice. And like 2.5 ounces each one, that's okay. But do not start with a cup that contains less than 5 ounces. Then you have a shallow with a yitzhak. So that's the halacha for the washing itself. Continue the rest of it in the next finish. Which means never to wash, never to tada brings us close to Hashem. That's supposed to see the Yerushalmi daily. We shall deviate from the regular shiur, continue the shiur in Tikuney Zohar. Then we'll go on to the health place, Kosim Kala, Chuppah. Regarding Chuppah, today we have a very outstanding Chuppah, so we have to learn a bit about Chuppah itself. It says, Amos says, Nebuchadnezzar, that it is a minhag among Jews to make the chuppah under the kapas hashemayim, under the sky, as a siman bracha. The stars, siman bracha, the sky itself. So it should be made under the heavens. That's why either they go outside or they have a
an open skylight, that it should be under the heavens. Because the Shulchan brings that this is the remez, what it says by Jesus saying on the ladies, no yitzim biyad el-amor. Children out biyad el-amor with the sakalach el-amor. They go out for the chuppah. If you understand it, the person only has to move to the next. Yitzim biyad el-amor, biyad el-amor. No, better luck next time. So too, it is, if possible, it says it is better, if possible, this still of course it's important to note it's only if possible, better to get married, Mila Levana, which means the first 15 days of the month, first 14 days of the month. First half of the month when the moon is called Mila Levana, the moon is glowing, it's a sign of Mazel, Simonite. That's if possible, of course, if not, there are cases where it's better to, if it's a question of getting married at the end of the month, or beginning of next month, the reason like given is certainly bigger than the name Am and so forth. Always, when it comes to marriage, the best thing is speed. Jump into this. The Gemara says that marriage is like Kriyas Yamsuf. Kriyas Yamsuf is the same as Hashem put together two people, two different natures, put them together as Kriyas Yamsuf. Kriyas Yamsuf was possible only when Menachem Mendel Schneerson jumped into the Yamsuf. That's what split, divided the waters. Place has to leap inside, close your eyes, jump, and that's it. And then take the consequences. The rest of your life. 120 years. Well, the living at the chuppah, we mentioned this individually to people, but it's good to say it on tape that she's out, because it's written in the Shulchan. Explain, you heard it before from me, so it's enough to shout and hear it again. Explain what happens at the badekin of the collar. What is badekin of the collar? You know, when you put a blanket or a cover, a tablecloth, a napkin, or a veil over the collar's face, and that's it. And what's the business of going and singing, and two people leave the chassan like he's going to the slaughterhouse? What is the whole topic, the whole town for it? And the fact is that when they go, they say, the ones that take part in the badekin, say, use this posek as a posek. Our sister should multiply the thousands and tens of thousands. Big bracha, kiruv, to have a lot of children, a lot of grandchildren. But the question is, why this bracha given to the kala? This is Lavan's words. Lavan ha'arami, Lavan ha'rosha. What's the matter with us? We can't find a better tefillah to start with the dulas whatever lacha Yaakov in the morning. And you start there, you start with the Chassidut, Lavan's words to Rivka, which she does. Lavan said to Rivka, Chassidut, Lavan. So what's the type of shot? Why so? Why is this that is said? The answer is that, if possible, the ones that lead the chassan is held on both sides. Tightly, you shouldn't. And he's led to the collar. Cover the collar. Cover the collar means that you're supposed to be covered, but he's got to see first, this is the one. If he won't see later on. And make sure it's the right kiddushin. It shouldn't happen like with Yaakov either. They gave him exchanging for him. No exchanges, no returns. So he has to look and see it's right, and then they cover the collar. This bracha, when the chassan, should be taken by the gedolim. If he has the Aharon there at the gedolim, Teshuva, they're the ones supposed to lead him to the collar. And when the cover is put over to them, then they say that one of the ones that say, why do they say this? Why doctor this word? Because look at Lavan's reason for saying it. Well, Lavan was Bikesh Laken as a Kel. He wanted to destroy Yaakov, he wanted to destroy the Jews. Worse than Padek, it says. He wanted to wipe out the Jews completely, right? That's fact. It says so in the Fedish. Bikesh Laken as a Kel. And there it says, and Lavan says to Rivka, who's leaving his home now, going with Eliezer to marry Yitzchak Avinu, to become the mother of the Jews, the mother of the Jewish people. He says to her, Achasinu, my sister, you should be Alfei Lavan, multiply to thousands, tens of thousands. Lavan wants to destroy the Jews completely. He should say of nothing, he should multiply to thousands, tens of thousands. What's the start of Lavan saying this? Understand? What's Lavan's reason for this bracha? Blessing your sister, multiply to thousands, tens of thousands, then you can, what, you can wipe us out? Why part they eat? The evil ones. What was Lavan's reason? Lavan was a Lavan. Lavan knew how to learn. He was learning Gemara B'Amasa.